way to keep herself from experiencing a deeper level of emptiness, which is what she was experiencing, because she was about the most self-satisfied individual in terms of having already created a healthy sense of self or a healthy ego. She was ready without knowing it, because the New Age movement has very little information about taking the next step after being fully empowered. So it was until she completed her vacation in Costa Rica and she went back home that she realized that she had kicked in to a state of unity where she was witnessing her sleep, and she was utilizing about 1/4 of the amount of energy to do the work that she was usually doing in the world. And it took about 11 months of being in this flow, in this constant flow of the inside and the outside being in accord, for some rough edges to begin to accumulate around her. So that was from emptiness to a state of enlightenment.
But you could say it's a
layers of the onion that are peeled, and nobody can skip a step. It's not a magic bullet. You can't go in depressed and come out happy, but you can get in touch with the process along the way that will speed, the session will speed that process up.
Could you call this like a key, a golden key into the subconscious or the unconscious?
I would say it's one of the very, very wonderful methods through this healing plant that facilitates that.
Now, Eric, you do work with groups and individuals with this plant, with this, what some people would call drug, this psychedelic substance. Some people call it an entheogen, a way to get in touch with the God within. Tell me something about that group work.
Well, it's only done actually individually. Group per se, because perhaps over a week's time, we can find a half a dozen cabins, and a person will begin, and then 6 or 7 hours later, and then another 15 hours later. And it's a very individual thing. Each individual, for this kind of process, needs to have a comfortable, separate space from one another, to have at least 2, if not 3 solid days to themselves to go through the stages of this process.
So this is not a party drug?
To say the least, it's the first thing that people realize when they take this is that it's not a recreational experience, and then they realize why it never hit the streets, and it never will. In America, it's the only drug, the only illegal drug on the Class 1 drug list that was basically never confiscated on the streets.
Well, the same was said about ketamine, which also gives a very deep experience at time, and yet people having used it a number of times, they also made it a businessman's drug for afternoon hits. Yeah, this is a long, arduous process that takes 2 to 3 days, and then thereafter, there's a metabolite that's created when the Ibogaine interacts with the biochemistry in the brain. The metabolite takes weeks and months to wash out. In the case of an addict, the metabolite, which fills the receptors, has to do with the elimination of craving for their particular substance of choice. When it comes to an initiation or a spiritual experience, this metabolite, I believe, enables people to witness their behavior more closely and allow the emptiness that they experience from this discharge of material, these file cabinets that seem to be thrown out of the subconscious, to create a situation where a person becomes much quieter. And this is not something that lasts for a day, but goes on for weeks and months, and then integrates into the individual because of the metabolite, I believe. Now, you mentioned
also because of the very deep deconstruction of the ego that takes place during the experience. And that's just a biochemical consideration, but it's a holistic approach.
So you lose the defense systems. You have worked with people that kick the habit by this way. Why is in Holland we have serious problems with people that are addicted. The rest of the world likewise. People tend to become criminals. They are very unhealthy. Why has science, why has the medical profession not embraced Ibogaine in an earlier stage?
Well, that's a good question. People give me information as to why, and I just listen and wonder, could that be? One reason, particularly in America, is the AMA wants a piece of the action, and they're